It's not money, it's not power. What moves the human being is sexual energy. For centuries, they told you to hide it, to repress it, to live it with guilt or excess, but they never taught you the essential thing, to master it. The sorcerer knows a forbidden secret. Sexual energy is not just pleasure, it's the spark of creation. The same force that gives birth to a body can also give birth to an idea, an empire, a fortune, an eternal work. What for others is instinct, for the sorcerer is fuel. What for others is escape, for the sorcerer is contained power, directed, transmuted. Here you will not learn to deny your fire. You will learn to ignite it without it consuming you, to transform it into magnetism, into creativity, into wealth, into vision, because the sorcerer does not flee from their desire. The sorcerer converts it into destiny. Prepare yourself, because what you will discover on this path is not theory, it's living alchemy. A journey where your body stops being a prison and becomes a temple, where your sexual energy stops being blind impulse and becomes the force that awakens your hidden power. This is the book they never wanted to give you, the forbidden manual of the most powerful energy you possess. There is no more powerful force in life than sexual energy. It's the same current that ignites instinct, that gives origin to a new human being, that unleashes passions, wars, and alliances. And yet, it has been one of the most misinterpreted and manipulated forces in history. Religion taught you to fear it, society taught you to hide it, industry taught you to consume it, but almost no one taught you what a sorcerer does know, to master it and transform it. The sorcerer understands that sexual energy is not an enemy, nor a sin, nor something you should flee from. It's the divine spark, the hidden engine that sustains life, and what you do with it determines whether your destiny will be one of expansion or exhaustion. Think about this. Sexual energy is the only one capable of creating physical life. So, what would happen if you redirected that same energy toward the creation of projects, of wealth, of vision? Nikola Tesla hinted that conserving vital force was key to awakening the creative mind. The ancient yogis spoke of transmutation of desire into spiritual power, and the Taoists said that whoever loses their vital essence also loses their destiny. Most people live like a broken pitcher. They let their energy escape in empty fantasies, in compulsive consumption, in fleeting pleasures that empty them instead of filling them. They feel fire, but don't know how to contain it. And each time they release without consciousness, they lose the raw material of their own power. The sorcerer does the opposite, doesn't repress or waste, channels. A sorcerer can feel desire without being a slave to it, can sustain the tension without need for escape, and in that sustaining occurs the alchemy. The crude energy transforms into magnetism, into intuition, into creative force, into power of attraction. Modern science is beginning to confirm what the wise knew. Sexual energy is directly connected with the brain centers of motivation and creativity. When redirected, it activates the frontal lobe, the part of the mind that imagines, that designs, that leads. That's why the great inventors, artists, and leaders have been described as men and women of internal fire, not because they repressed their desire, but because they knew how to transform it into vision. The sorcerer knows that every thought, every word, and every vision charged with multiplied sexual energy becomes irresistible to reality. That's why their presence is different. It feels magnetic, vital, ignited, not because they have more luck than others, but because they have learned the art of not letting escape what others waste. Pause. Ask yourself honestly, where does your sexual energy go? Do you use it as creative impulse, or does it leak in anxieties, in habits, in moments of pleasure that leave you emptier than before? This chapter is not to judge you. It's to show you that you have within you a power plant, a living generator. The question is not whether you possess it, but what you're going to do with it. The sorcerer who masters their sexual energy is not someone who flees from the body. It's an alchemist who transforms their body into a temple and their desire into destiny. Because they understood that what for many is an escape, for them is a resource. What for others is shame, for them is power. What for society is taboo, for them is the secret of magnetism. And here begins your training. It's not about denying your fire, it's about learning to direct it. Because a poorly contained fire destroys, but a well-lit fire illuminates the path. Within you lives a fire. Sometimes you feel it as desire, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as overflowing creativity. That fire is sexual energy-seeking exit. And most people only know two paths. To extinguish it or let it consume them. The sorcerer does something different. The sorcerer learns to contain the fire without suffocating it, sustains it, directs it, converts it into heat that gives life instead of fire that destroys. Think of a bonfire. If the wood burns without control, the fire expands and devastates everything. But if you place stones around it, if you feed the embers with measure, that same fire becomes light, heat, power you can use. That is the art of mastering sexual energy, sustaining the flame without fear, but also without waste. The ancient yogis spoke of Kundalini, a serpent of fire coiled at the base of the spine. When that fire awakens without guidance, it can madden the mind, exhaust the body, and drag the person to excesses. But when it awakens with consciousness, it ascends, becomes intuition, wisdom, spiritual clarity. In Taoism, something similar was taught. The essence, the sexual essence, should not be wasted because it was the root of vitality, the seed that could become longevity, mental power, personal magnetism. The masters said, "Whoever guards their essence guards their destiny." Modern science is beginning to say it with other words. Neuroscientists have discovered that states of sexual arousal activate the same brain centers as motivation, and that this energy, when not discharged immediately, can become creative impulse, mental focus, capacity to risk and to lead. This explains why many geniuses of history were described as obsessive, as people with an inexhaustible internal force. What really occurred is that they learned to elevate their fire instead of losing it. The sorcerer knows that internal fire is not there to consume everything in instants, but to sustain it as sacred fuel. That's why they don't flee from their desires. They breathe them, contemplate them, transform them. Do an exercise now. The next time you feel that energy burn in you, instead of running to release it, feel it. Breathe deeply. Imagine that heat rises up your spine, that ignites your heart, that illuminates your forehead. And ask yourself, what can I create with this energy? That simple and powerful question changes the destiny of the fire, takes it out of the instinctive, and places it in the creative. The sorcerer is not stronger than you. They simply learned not to escape from the heat, learned that fire is not enemy, but teacher. And when you manage to sustain your internal fire, you will discover something that changes everything. Your presence becomes magnetic. People feel it. Your words acquire more weight, your actions more impact, your creativity more force, not because you have more luck, but because you have ignited the engine that others turn off. The secret of internal fire is this. Don't waste it, don't repress it, transmute it, because what today you feel as desire, tomorrow can become wealth, vision, power. Desire is pure force. When it appears, it feels like urgency, like hunger, like a wave that wants to drag you. Most people believe that only two paths exist before that wave. Let yourself be carried and lose control, or resist it until exhausted. But the sorcerer knows a third path, transmute. Transform the force of desire into creative energy that expands life instead of wearing it down. The ancient alchemists sought to convert lead into gold, but the true masters knew that the true lead was not a metal. It was crude desire. And the true gold was not material. It was elevated consciousness, clear vision, creative power. Napoleon Hill, in his classic Think and Grow Rich, revealed what he called the strangest mystery. He said that the men who had achieved most in history had something in common. They had learned to redirect their sexual energy toward the creation of works, enterprises, discoveries. Hill called it sexual sublimation and affirmed that no great conquest in history was made without that force. But long before Hill, the Taoists already taught it, who saw sexual energy as water in a river. If you let it run without channel, it's lost. But if you learn to direct it, it can move mills, give life to fields, sustain cities. Let's think of clear examples. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most brilliant geniuses of humanity, wrote in his journals that the energy of desire should be transformed into creative force, and you only have to see his life to understand it. Inventions, paintings, scientific studies, architecture. His fire was not consumed in the immediate, it became a creative torrent. Nikola Tesla, another modern sorcerer, refused throughout his life to deliver his sexual energy in a disorderly way, and dedicated that force to sustaining his mind in constant creation. His inventions, from alternating current to the foundations of radio, were born from a transmuted fire, not extinguished. The sorcerer understands that each sexual impulse is like an electrical spark. If you discharge it to ground, it disappears. If you channel it in a circuit, it lights lamps, moves machines, sustains cities. The same occurs within you. How is desire transmuted? The first step is to stop the urgency, not react immediately, breathe deeply, feel the energy without fear, and bring attention to the complete body from the belly to the heart, from the heart to the forehead. Imagine that force rises like liquid fire, expanding through each center. The second step is to give it purpose. Ask yourself sincerely, what do I want to convert this desire into? Into inspiration, into creativity, into force to undertake, into clarity to study or lead. The mind needs direction, and sexual energy without direction is lost. The third step is immediate creative action. When the energy is in you, don't let it stagnate. Write, design, imagine, train. Create. Any act of expression converts the intensity of desire into visible power. It's not about denying sex or repressing it, but about recognizing that desire doesn't always ask for physical discharge. Sometimes it asks to be converted into vision, into work, into future. The sorcerer who masters this law is not a saint apart from the world. It's someone who lives with intensity, but who is no longer a slave to urgency. Someone who converts each spark into a seed and each seed into fruit. Do the test. The next time the wave of desire appears, instead of running, breathe, sustain, direct, create, write an idea, start a project, make a decision, you will see that the energy changes place. It no longer drags you, it propels you. That is the art of transmutation, the true forbidden secret. Because a humanity that learned to convert desire into creative power would be impossible to control. That's why they never taught you in school. Your body is not just flesh and bone. It's not a biological machine that ages and wears out. It's an energetic temple, a living altar designed to contain and multiply power. Each organ, each gland, each nerve center is a door, and behind each door moves the same force that ignites stars and maintains entire galaxies in balance. That force is sexual energy, the root of all creation. The ancients knew it. The yogis spoke of chakras, the Taoists of qi, the alchemists of serpentine fire, and modern science calls them endocrine and neuroelectric systems. Different languages for the same thing, an energy map that crosses your body from bottom to top. Each level is a guardian, and if you don't awaken it consciously, sexual energy stays trapped in the lowest, and instead of becoming power, it transforms into obsession, into anxiety, into emptiness. Imagine your body as a 7-story temple. At the base is the root, the chakra that guards survival, instinct, earth. Here, sexual energy is crude fire, like burning wood. If you stay there, desire dominates and everything you do is born from fear of losing. The second floor is in the belly, the creative center, where fire becomes water, pleasure, emotions, bonds. Here, seduction is born, but also dependence. If you don't awaken this level, you can confuse love with attachment, desire with need, attraction with disguised emptiness. The third floor is the solar plexus, the fire of personal power. Here, sexual energy rises and becomes confidence, will, magnetism. It's where a sorcerer learns to radiate security without saying a word. The fourth floor is the heart. Here, the energy stops being only yours. It expands and becomes force of union. The sexual transforms into vibrational love. You no longer seek to possess, you seek to share. Your energy becomes medicine for others. The fifth floor is the throat. The energy that before was instinct now becomes creative word, verb that opens doors, voice that transforms realities. That's why many wise ones say that the true sorcerer speaks little, because they know that each word ignited with sexual energy is decree. The sixth floor is the deep mind. The third eye, when energy reaches here, vision opens, dreams become revelation, intuition becomes compass. The sorcerer no longer imagines, sees, and what they see, they attract. And on the seventh floor, the crown, sexual energy becomes divine fire, union with the eternal. The force that before sought pleasure now sustains purpose. Here it's no longer about dominating others, but about living connected to the source. Scientists know this is not just poetry. The pineal gland in the center of your brain is activated with practices of breathing, meditation, and energetic retention. And when activated, it secretes chemical compounds that change your perception of time and space, what the mystics called spiritual awakening. The sorcerer who masters their body is not who hardens it in the gym. It's who honors it as temple, who understands that each act, each food, each breath is a ritual, and that when you eat garbage, you think garbage and desire without consciousness, you are profaning the altar. But when you choose with consciousness, when you breathe deeply, when you move your energy without wasting it, your entire body becomes a magnetic field. Remember this: your body is not your enemy. It's not a prison. It's the most perfect container to contain the divine. But you have to treat it as a temple because it is. Most think that controlling sexual energy is repressing it, extinguishing the fire, fleeing from desire. But the sorcerer knows that repressing is losing, because what is repressed becomes shadow, obsession, guilt. True control is not negation, it's direction. It's learning to contain energy like someone who guards water in a golden vessel so it doesn't spill anywhere, but rather feeds what really matters. Think of a dam that guards the water of a river. If it breaks, the force of water destroys everything, but if it's well contained, that same water becomes electricity that illuminates entire cities. The same happens with your sexual energy. If it escapes in meaningless fantasies, in soulless relationships, in compulsive habits, it's wasted. But if you contain it transforms into creativity, into magnetism, into power you can use in everything you do. Silence is the first tool of the sorcerer, because internal noise is the first leak of energy. Each repetitive thought, each mental conversation of guilt, desire, and fear is a drip in your container. And while those drips exist, energy is lost even if you don't notice. That's why the sorcerer practices silence. Not only external silence of turning off noises, but internal silence of observing thoughts without being dragged by them. The Taoists spoke of retention of seed, not as abstinence, but as alchemy. They understood that sexual energy is the most powerful substance that exists in the human body, and that each time it's wasted, vitality is reduced. But when conserved, it rises through internal channels and renews the entire nervous and endocrine system. Today, science is beginning to confirm it. Studies on dopamine show that immediate gratification, quick discharge, exhausts receptors, which means that each time you need more stimulus to feel the same. On the other hand, the capacity to wait, to sustain, to contain, reorganizes the brain and multiplies the energy available for creativity, concentration, and purpose. A sorcerer doesn't fear desire, observes it, breathes it, contains it. When sexual energy ignites, doesn't run to extinguish it, neither lets themselves be dragged, feels it in their body as living fire, and instead of letting it escape, makes it circulate with breathing, with attention, with conscious movement. Thus, little by little, that fire rises from belly to chest, from chest to throat, from throat to mind, and what was only desire becomes clarity, vision, force of creation. Practice now something simple. The next time you feel a strong impulse, don't judge it, don't repress it. Breathe deeply, close your eyes, bring attention to your abdomen and feel the energy move. Then, imagine it rises like a current of light toward your heart, and while exhaling, feel how it expands throughout your body. It's not fantasy, Its training and with practice energy will learn to obey you. The sorcerer is a container because they know that each leak weakens them and because they learned that silence is not emptiness but accumulated force. When you quiet, the field reorganizes. When you contain, energy matures, and when you choose the correct moment to release it. It's not a blind impulse, it's a directed ray that can open doors that others will never manage to touch. Remember this, containing is not extinguishing, containing is sustaining to transform. The sorcerer never runs after what they desire, doesn't chase people, money, or opportunities, because they know that what is chased flees and what is sustained in energy arrives alone. Their secret is not in hidden techniques, but in mastery of their most powerful force. Sexual energy, think of a magnet, doesn't make noise, doesn't run, doesn't beg, simply is. And by being what it is, attracts it, without effort, what vibrates on its same frequency. That same thing occurs with the sorcerer who has learned to contain and direct their energy. Their field becomes a magnet and others feel it, although they cannot explain it. Have you noticed how there are people who barely enter a room and everyone turns to look at them? Not because they are more beautiful, richer, or wiser, but because something in their presence speaks louder than any word. That is transmuted sexual energy. It's no longer aimless desire, now it's pure magnetism. Science is beginning to confirm it. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute demonstrated that the human heart emits an electromagnetic field that can be measured at several meters distance, and that this field changes according to what we feel and think. When sexual energy is contained and elevated toward the heart, that field becomes coherent, and coherence is impossible to ignore. People don't know why, but they trust, they feel, they approach. The sorcerer doesn't seek to impress, doesn't need adornments or explanations, simply radiates a force that organizes what surrounds them. Their gaze is deeper, their voice firmer, their presence more alive, because the energy that others waste, they sustain and convert into power. This magnetism not only attracts people, it also attracts money, opportunities, synchronicities, because the vibrational field doesn't distinguish between relationships and circumstances. Everything responds to the frequency you sustain. If your field vibrates from anxiety, you attract chaos. If it vibrates from sufficiency, you attract abundance. Clear example. High-performance athletes have told that during their preparation, before an important competition, they avoid losing sexual energy. Not as superstition, but because they feel that accumulated vitality translates into confidence, into force, into focus. And the same has been practiced by great spiritual leaders who, by containing their energy, radiated a silent authority that made multitudes follow them without need to convince. Do you want to practice it yourself? The next time you enter a place full of people, don't try to please, don't try to call attention, simply remember your contained energy. Breathe deeply and feel how your chest expands. Look calmly, walk with presence and observe. You will notice that something changes. People begin to turn toward you, not because you speak, but because your field already spoke before you. Irresistible attraction is not magic, it's energetic coherence. When what you think, feel, and do vibrates in the same direction, your energy becomes irresistible, and the external has no other option but to reflect it. Remember this, what you chase eludes you, what you sustain seeks you. The sorcerer knows something that most ignore. Sexual energy was not made only to reproduce, nor only to give pleasure. Its true purpose is to create. And I'm not only talking about creating life, I'm talking about creating worlds, projects, art, wealth, ideas that change history. That's why whoever masters their sexual energy becomes an unstoppable creator. Look at history. Leonardo da Vinci, a man who seemed to have more than one life in one. Painter, inventor, architect, anatomist, musician. Many researchers believe that his secret was the transmutation of his sexual energy. Because he didn't disperse his fire in excess, he contained it, he sublimated it, and that fire transformed into visions that today still leave us breathless. Nikola Tesla said it without detours. Sexual energy can become unlimited creative force. He lived dedicated to his discoveries, and although his personal life seemed austere, his mind was a volcano of inventions that still sustain the modern world, from alternating current to radio. The sorcerer understands the same as them, that each time you choose to contain your energy, you are saving fire to ignite something bigger, a work, a project, a reality. Science confirms it. Studies in neuroscience show that sexual arousal activates the same brain areas linked to creativity and imagination. But if energy is discharged without direction, that potential is lost. On the other hand, if you contain it and direct it, the mind begins to use that fire to open new paths, unexpected connections, brilliant solutions. Many artists have done it without calling it transmutation. When a musician sits at the piano and plays with all their passion, they are channeling sexual energy into music. When a writer writes non-stop, as if something greater dictates it, they are using that energy. When an entrepreneur creates a business that inspires and transforms, they are doing it too, because all creation is sexual energy in movement. The sorcerer simply makes it conscious, doesn't wait for it to happen by chance, provokes it, directs it, converts it into a habit. Thus, each desire, each impulse, each internal fire becomes gasoline for what they want to build. Remember this. Each time you choose to spend your sexual energy in the immediate, in quick pleasure, in a distraction, you are losing the spark of something much bigger that could be born from you. But each time you choose to contain, breathe, sublimate, create, you are planting a work, a vision, a wealth that doesn't die with an instant, but remains as footprint in the world. The sorcerer is not only who withholds, it's who transforms, who converts their fire into light. The sorcerer knows that sexual fire is the most valuable currency of the universe, because with it, you can buy ephemeral pleasure, or you can build invisible kingdoms that will sustain your entire life. The modern world has trivialized that energy, consumes it on screens, in encounters without soul, in empty repetitions. And each time that occurs, the body turns off, the gaze loses brightness, the mind becomes heavier, and the spirit weakens. Have you noticed how after an excessive discharge comes a strange silence, a tiredness that cannot be explained, an apathy that weighs on the soul? That's not coincidence, it's loss. It's the signal that your field has delivered its gold in exchange for nothing. The sorcerer never represses because repressing is like covering a volcano. Sooner or later it explodes. What they do is transform, change the direction of that current so that instead of consuming you, it expands you. Traditions knew it. The Taoists spoke of conserving vital essence, the yogis of multiplying power. Even today, neuroscience shows that sexual self-control strengthens concentration, memory, motivation. It's not myth, it's measurable energy. But here's the true secret. Loss is not only physical, it's vibrational. If your field has leaks, it doesn't matter how much you decree, how much you visualize, how much you work, your magnetism will never be complete. That's why the sorcerer does something different, converts energy into fuel for body, mind, and spirit. Try this. The next time you feel sexual energy rising and asking for exit, don't run to extinguish it. Change your posture, stand up, stretch your spine, take 3 slow steps with full consciousness, and begin to move your body as if that energy were music. Let it travel toward your arms, toward your legs, toward your chest. Move it. Don't discharge it. In a few minutes you will feel the urgency dissolve, and in its place appears vitality, heat, lucidity. Because the fire was not lost, it distributed throughout your system as if you had turned on all the lamps of your internal temple. The sorcerer understands that danger is not in sexual energy, but in wasting it, because waste is forgetting. But transformation is power. Remember this, each leak is a crack. Each act of consciousness is a seal that strengthens your field. The sorcerer knows that common sex is only friction, discharge, forgetting. But sacred sex is a portal, a key that can open hidden dimensions where energy is not lost but multiplies. When 2 bodies meet from instinct, fire ignites and extinguishes in seconds. But when they meet from consciousness, fire doesn't extinguish, it transforms into light, and that light feeds the field of both. Most live union as an end. The sorcerer lives it as a channel. It's not about arriving quickly at discharge, but sustaining vibration as if it were a river that doesn't interrupt. And how is this done? First, with presence, without hurry, without goal, without obsession of climax. The sorcerer knows that orgasm is only a physical reflex, but ecstasy is a vibrational state that can last minutes, hours, even days. The key is shared breathing. When you inhale and your partner exhales, when you exhale and your partner inhales, a circuit is created, an invisible circle where energy begins to circulate in spiral. It's no longer yours or mine, it's ours. The Taoists called it fusion breathing. The Tantrics described it as the ascent of the serpent. Modern science calls it rhythm synchronization. The name doesn't matter. What occurs is that the field of both aligns and potentiates. Do the test. The next time you are in intimacy, before any movement, sit face to face. Close your eyes and connect breathing without touching more, only breathing together for 3 minutes. You will feel how energy changes, how body tension dissolves and something else appears, a deeper heat, a more real magnetism. Then, when the body begins to move, don't do it to arrive, do it to expand. Move slowly, as if each gesture were a wave that activates the field, and each time you feel energy rising too much, pause, breathe, sustain, let fire become a sun in the chest and not a spark that extinguishes below. The sorcerer understands that in that instant, not only the body unites, the soul unites, and that the true orgasm is not the final contraction, but the opening of an interior space where there are no longer two, only one. That is the ritual. It's not technique, it's not position, it's consciousness. It's remembering that intimate encounter can be door of loss or door of power. The sorcerer always chooses the second. A sorcerer doesn't leave material inheritances, leaves fields, leaves vibrations that remain long after their body turns off. The true legacy of the sorcerer who masters their sexual energy is not pretty words or passing memories. It's the silent force that sustains their life, their art, their relationships, and even the air they leave behind. Look at someone who has lost their energy. Their body looks tired, their gaze extinguished, their step without direction. Now look at someone who has mastered it. No matter their age, radiates magnetism, vitality, clarity. It seems that life itself follows and protects them. That is the legacy, never depending on instinct again, not being slave to pulsion, not living empty after discharge, but converting each drop of that energy into fire to create, into force to sustain, into light to guide. The sorcerer who masters their sexual energy lives beyond immediate pleasure. Their pleasure is in seeing how each action, each word, and each gaze carries the mark of their power. Their partner feels it, their work reflects it, their field sustains it, and everyone around them notices it. Although they don't know how to explain it, they call them different, magnetic, unforgettable. That is the legacy that now can also be yours. Not a secret for a few, not a reserved gift, but an art that anyone can learn if willing to stop losing themselves and begin to sustain themselves. If you arrived here, it's because your energy has already begun to awaken. You are not the same who started this journey, and you know it. Now you have in your hands a map. The map of a sorcerer who doesn't flee from their energy, but converts it into their greatest treasure. Remember, it's not enough to listen. You have to practice, breathe, contain, elevate, transform, because when you do, your entire life will become testimony of the power that before was asleep in you. If this message resonated with you, if you felt the fire awaken within, don't let it fade. Subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving the ancient wisdom that awakens your hidden power. Share this video with those seeking to break free from mediocrity and step into their true potential. The path of the sorcerer continues with each new teaching, and your subscription ensures you won't miss a single key to unlocking your magnetism, your creativity, and your destiny. Hit that subscribe button now, because the sorcerer within you is just beginning to awaken, and the journey ahead holds secrets that will transform everything you thought you knew about power, creation, and the force that moves the universe itself. Your transformation starts now. Subscribe.